Morning, everyone. My name's Cindy Norcott, and I'm the CEO of Pro Talent. We're a recruitment agency based in Westville. And this year we have done a wide variety of webinars on all types of different topics. It's actually been loads and loads of fun to connect with people. So I see some of your names, and some of you I've known for years and years. So it feels like we're chatting to friends. Today, I'm very, very excited to be hosting my friend Sarah Swainson. Sarah is an adventurer. She's a curious lady. She is somebody who I really, really admire. She's an athlete. She does crazy things like climbing mountains, swimming cold waters, hiking. And her gift in life is a gift of encouragement to other people and women in particular to live a life less ordinary. So I really, really am excited to have Sarah with us. A couple of years ago, Sarah came on one of my retreats, and we all went out for a walk in the morning on this retreat in the Midlands. And Sarah was like, no, we're not walking, we're all running. And she managed somehow to get every single one of us to run. So she's not just a person who's an adventurer, she's a coach, she's a speaker, she's a radio and podcast contributor as well. Sarah and I have done quite a few events together this year, and we've had loads of fun. So she's the owner of an organization called Ordinarily Active. And her goal and her job in this business is to inspire people to do things that they never thought possible. And isn't that exciting? I don't know how many of us on this call feel like I'd love to do something that I never thought was possible. So, Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah,
Thank you,
it's
Sarah.
as you were saying there, it's one of my special gifts when somebody says to me, "Oh, do you think you can do this?" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds so exciting." And if I get excited about it, then it's one of my superpowers is to let people believe they can do something that they never thought was possible.
Absolutely. And I think, Sarah, you've probably hit the nail on the head. I think there are probably many people on this call who lack excitement. I mean, we don't get a lot of passion these days. You know, you meet people at work and everyone's sort of grinding it out till the end of the year. A lot of people are not feeling very positive, motivated, inspired, excited. So I'm really hoping that somehow you're going to infuse us with your positivity today. So we're doing a talk called Beyond the Pompoms. And really, I'm not speaking. I'm here to really just ask Sarah a few questions and to encourage discussion. How we're going to do it is I'm going to ask you a few questions, and right at the end, there'll be 10 minutes or so for you to ask questions. Or if you've got anything that you want to ask or share, then that's our time. We will finish on the hour, definitely, if not earlier. So, Sarah, we discussed this topic. You know, we often say that there's the men's club, you know, men who have got the old school tie. They've, been at school together and they support each other. Often women come from a place of, I don't know, scarcity. Sometimes it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room at the top for women. So women sometimes compete. Sometimes they can be, not very supportive to each other. So you've put together a talk which I know has been very well received to the corporates that you've presented it at. And in this talk, you encourage people, particularly ladies, to move from being cheerleaders to champions. Now, I think, wouldn't it be nice to be a cheerleader? I often feel like that's my job as a boss. So can you clarify what does this mean? And what are we doing wrong? If I'm a cheerleader, I think I'm being amazingly supportive. Like, what
Yeah.
more should I do?
So let me give you a bit of context of where this came from. So about a year ago, I went through a situation, and because of the work I do, I input into a lot of people, and I had inputted into a situation quite heavily, but then I'd made a business decision, and I kind of relied that I would get the same input back, and it didn't happen, and it was a really challenging situation for me to deal with. But what that did make me realize, but in the same time, before I carry on, in the same time, I'm getting these messages from people, "Oh, Sarah, you're amazing," with a heart. And I'm going, I don't need the message. I need your support. So it was this disconnect that I was finding between what people were saying, and they were going, "Rah, rah, Sarah, you're amazing," but actually not actually taking any action. And so regardless of the situation, what this got me thinking was, from the situation, what did I want to be? What did I want to be? Somebody who just stood and went, "Oh, Cindy, you're amazing," or did I want to be somebody who championed others? And so this
Yeah.
is where the thinking going is moving beyond being a cheerleader for people and actually looking at a champion. So when you think of a champion, I don't know who you think of, but I think of like Joan of Arc, Gladiator, Queen Elizabeth I, the Golden Age, when Kate Blanchett was on the horse and she's got her red hair flying in the background. I think of that. I have to tell you the funniest story. So when we watched that movie, my husband is British. And we're watching it, and if you know the movie, it's set, it's the Spanish Armada are about to invade England. It's if they get through this situation, well, England is going to become Spanish. It's 1588. It's at the crux of the movie, and I poked my husband in the side, and I said, Paul, who wins this? And he looked at me in horror, and he goes, Sarah, do I speak Spanish? As an Englishman, I had insulted his dignity. But as you think about the champion, I think about those people.
Yes.
And if you actually, and then I went and delved a bit deep, and if you look at the root word of champion, it comes from the Latin word, which is campio. And then it got, which is gladiator or fighter in the field. And then in Middle English, it transferred to mean warrior who fights on behalf of others. And this is the whole concept of and this was really introspection. What did I want to be for others? Did I want to stand and get that message from somebody who I knew I needed their support, but I'm getting some message going, you're amazing? Or did I just want to take the action and support those people and be that champion?
Okay, I hear you. And I think I've experienced that myself, from being the chairperson of the Robin Hood Foundation for 20 years, and I'm handing over that role now this month. And I've had so many people going, you're amazing, and I support you, but they don't. And I think what we probably need is more supportive friends than adoring fans. As you say, people stepping in and saying, what do you need from me? Sarah, recently we hosted, you were part of it, we hosted a really impactful brainstorming session where 8 of us who are in business-to-business companies sat here and said, what do I need and how can I help you? And that was a powerful moment. We spent 2 hours. We all walked away with homework, not for ourselves, but to help each other. And I think that was such a great moment of supporting each other, not just a like on Facebook or but really sort of saying, like, let me use my network and my connections and everything I have to help you intentionally. So what's the difference between a cheerleader and a champion? Can we just clarify that more? And why do you believe we need to shift in 2026?
So I'll give you an example. So I think, why do we like cheerleaders? It's actually, if you think back to it, is the person, it actually strokes your ego.
Yes. It makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah. Somebody thinks, hey, Sarah, you're amazing. I go, wow, I am amazing. Whereas a champion is, you actually almost indebted to that person. If you look back in your life, and if I go back to that same situation, I did have champions. They were just not who I thought would benefit. And they just said, yeah, Sarah, what do you need? Like, what do you need? What do you need? And so champions, it's a much more humbling experience. If you look at, let me think of an example. So American football, you have your quarterback, and he has a blind side, or generally he has a blind side. And if that blind side is not protected, he gets taken out. He cannot make the play.
Yeah.
And so we have what's called left tackle. And the whole job of the left tackle is to let the quarterback do their work. And so I think the champion idea is that left tackle, is that person that stands in the gap. I think they're somebody that, exactly like they said, they don't just give lip service. So it's not just words, it's action, I believe. So it's so I think back to, at the moment, I'm working on a bigger project. I'm trying to muddle through a whole bunch of things. And in those times, as you know, like an entrepreneur, you're starting a new idea, there's somebody that might be here thinking about doing something, they don't know how. You have got that self-doubt. Those voices are talking loudly. You don't need anybody else to do anything. So you need those champions to be able to be those soundboards, to be able to go, okay, you're looking for X, Y, and Z. Let me try and help you connect the dots. Can I open a door for you? And it's not just lip service, actually taking action. So I think where it comes into the workplace exceptionally is, so imagine you have a young female who's going for a job promotion. The difference is the cheerleader goes, "You're amazing," go, this kind of thing. Whereas champion sits down and goes, "Are you ready for the interview? Can I help you with the questions?" And behind the scenes, they've actually gone into a management meeting and said, "I will vouch for that person.
Yeah.
I might mentor them for six months until they get on their feet." So I think it's much more a lip service compared to a where do you put your action and your backing.
Okay. I like that. But I also think that this talk is not just about us as women in the community or us as friends. I think from what I'm hearing, for each one of us as a leader, let's take it into our own workplaces. It's so easy to say, I'm supporting my staff. Well done. We stand there with the pom-poms, end of a good month. But like, what am I doing to support the people that work with me as well? Is there a way I can go deeper? Is there a way I can wear more the mentor or coach hat instead of just sort of passing on a lead or what have you? But imagine if each one of us on this call is in business and we all decided I could help somebody intentionally. I must tell you, it was about 2021. A friend of mine, we weren't even close, but she approached me in January of that year. This was 2021. And she said, I would like to be your support person this year. I said, what do you mean? Like, what is this? Like, why me and what? And she said, no, every year I try and find one person that I offer support to. And she said, what does support look like for you and what do you need from me? I was blown away. I'd never done that intentionally. But I wanted to share with you quickly, Sarah, one thing I did in 2020. I had just done an accelerator program through EO. And one of the suggestions they gave us was to identify 25 key influences in your life and to intentionally work with them in your business. So I wrote the names of 25, it was all women, 25 women that I connected well with. And every week I would look at that list and say, who can I help this week? Who can I refer? Who can I recommend? Who can I encourage? Remember, this was 2020 when everybody was in need of dire need of encouragement. But I feel like it hasn't really changed. I feel like life is not much easier than it was in 2020. So, Sarah, you said the world doesn't just need nice words, it needs champions. What else should we be doing if we want to be champions? What do you think? What are we not doing that we should put into our daily to-do list as such?
So I think I've been challenged as I've thought deeper on this topic is how much, so in a leadership role, how much are you willing to, for others to grow, you have to give them space. And sometimes I'm even guilty of this. I went and thought, and I said, do I give people enough space? Because I know I can do it, but am I giving them enough space to grow, to fail? Because what if they do? Am I going to be okay with that? And yes, you're going to set people up and you don't want situations where people fail. But I think that's one area. Are we willing to let people grow? Are we willing to spot? And also sometimes, I don't know about you, Sunny, but it's not only the people that look like they might need help. When you're on the forefront, sometimes it's just taking it a step further, I think. So if you think maybe even your own friendship circles, when that person who hasn't gone through a tough time, I think we all have, and it's the difference between the message, which is great. I'm not debating that. But is it the friend that pitches up with the meal unasked? And I love this idea from, I don't know who it was from, but they bring you paper plates because who wants to do dishes when you're in a I don't know where that was from, but next time I take a meal, I'm taking paper plates. And I think that and I think it comes down to, and this might be a little bit controversial, so I'll watch myself, but the self-love movement and putting self first hasn't done us any good. I don't think. I think we very much, everybody's going, oh, well, if you don't make me feel happy, then I'm going to go and find it somewhere else. And I think we have to go a little deeper. put
Okay.
ourselves to the side for a moment. And I'm not talking about self-development or any of those good things. What I'm talking about is prioritizing yourself at the cost of something that you might be able to contribute to.
Okay. So what you're saying, one of the things I remember reading through Malcolm Gladwell, and he said kindness and acts of compassion are not a function of niceness, but they're a function of time. So he did
Mm.
an exercise where these trainee priests had to walk across a courtyard. They divided the groups into two. The first group was told, "You are late for the meeting." So and they walked across this courtyard where somebody was begging for support, and all these trainee priests who are obviously good people, I'm sure, they ignored this person asking for help. The second group were told, "Listen, we got the time wrong. You're actually early. The person is begging," and each one of them stopped to chat to the beggar. And I think for many of us women, and or even men on this call, I think we're living in a time where there is no time, where we can barely get through the day doing what we need to do for ourselves. So being considerate to other people takes intention, it takes attention, it takes effort, it takes energy. And I think for many of us, we live in attention deficit. We've got 1,000 things, asking for our attention. So to consider, let's just say I'm looking at my goals for 2026, and I think, gosh, I really would like to be that person for other people. I think it takes a lot of intentionality. It takes writing it down. It takes putting it as a goal. This year, I'm going to be more supportive of this person in my organization, or in general, I want to apply that, but I want to apply that, maybe on a weekly basis. I'm going to allocate some time and energy to it. So Sarah, what do you why do you think women hesitate to step into the champion role? I believe it's time, but
Yeah.
because a lot of us we care deeply for others, and as you say, we look at people having a hard time, and you're thinking, you know what? I see you having a hard time, but I myself am just struggling to get through. So, is there some underlying thing that I'm not seeing?
No, I think there's a number of things, and I think we have to take a very hard look at our busyness factor, and
Yeah,
actually, what are we busy with? And I think if you absolutely, um, really ruthless with your time, you'll find that you actually have more time than you think. Whether it's I have to be more intentional about how I structure my time, I have to be more intentional about how I use my time. Is it going to cost you from a resource perspective? So do I buy myself something, or do I, and I'm not saying what's right or wrong. I'm just saying this
yeah,
is the thinking that starts to evolve. And I think if we go down that route, you'll find opportunities to impact. I come across a really good book, which I haven't read much of it, but I thought there was one line in it. It's called One Life, and it's written by his daughter. The topic, the guy's who is about is Sir Nicholas Winton. If anybody knows him, he's the guy that he rescued a whole lot of Czech children as
oh
the
wow,
Nazis were invading, and 669 children owe their lives to him. And it was actually 9 months of his life. And the daughter actually writes and said it was 9 months. But actually, if you look in the bigger picture, that's how he lived his whole life. So he didn't
yeah,
actually think this was a big thing. Anyway, he writes just in the beginning, in the introduction, and says, um, his wish for this biography is that we might inspire people to recognize that they can act ethically in a world and make a positive difference to the lives of others in whatever area they feel strongly about, whether it's an
yeah,
international crisis nearer to home or in their community. So I think one of the things is, what are you passionate about? And where can you input and champion somebody else that you feel passionate about? Because that's going to be a connecting point there. And I think that's maybe something to think of. And I think then he jumps on and he says, well, things are not right in the world now, but I can make a difference in my own way. And here is the action bit, and I'm going to do it. So I think as I was thinking through this whole thing, I think it's more do what you're passionate about and support people along the way. Um, that's my take on it. Right or wrong?
absolutely, absolutely. Sarah, I've just written my latest book called The Weight of Hope. I don't know if you can see it there.
Yes.
But in this book, I'm talking to people who want to make a difference. And one of the suggestions I have is not necessarily that everyone should start a nonprofit. I think
Yes.
there's a lot of struggling nonprofits, but maybe also fall in behind someone and support them intentionally. I think that would be a great move for a lot of people rather than feeling like, oh, I've got to start something or the problems are so big, I don't know where to start. I think pick one thing
Yeah.
and work with that. There's a lovely
Cool.
question.
I'll give you an
Yeah,
I'll
Kara?
give you an example. Cindy, I could tell you, hey, Cindy, you're the most amazing writer. I think you're really nice. And then you could say to me, oh, did you buy my book? And I go,
Yes.
well, no. You know, that's the
Yes.
difference. Well,
Yeah,
I did buy it.
I
But
know.
what you, Cindy, I really enjoyed, there were so many nuggets. One of them I found on page 130, and I could have a robust conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah,
You would most probably take more from that, than somebody just blowing smoke. So I
yeah,
think that's more, it's intentionally where you can see you can support or champion or whatever the case. And might be, you don't have to like massive acts, but this is,
yes,
I think, cultivated time and time again.
yeah.
That's where the
Yeah, and I think from what you're saying, I think maybe we all need to do a bit of reflection and check our own narrative because one of my belief systems is that I never have enough time. So if you,
Mm,
like me, think like that, you always feel busy, you always feel stressed, you always feel time poor. So that when somebody says, "Can you help me with something?" my instant
yeah.
response is to go into panic mode. Like I don't even have enough time for myself.
You
You
not know
want
what I do
time from
already.
me. Exactly. So I think to also check, is that narrative serving me? How do I go
Mm.
into 2026 with a lighter mindset as well and saying like, I can do what I need to do for me as well as make a difference in the world and support others. But Sarah, you said, I think we know a lot of women will offer encouragement and say all the good words and like be supportive verbally, but
Mm.
obviously advocacy requires some action. How can someone recognize when they are stuck in surface level support? How would you know that actually I need to go deeper? There are people out there who I care about who need something from me that I'm not giving.
Um, I think there's a number of ways is you can evaluate whether your words are actually leading to any action, whether it actually
Okay.
whether you take any action on behalf of somebody else. So there's nothing wrong. I'm not saying we don't give any words of encouragement or anything like that. That's different. That's encouragement and stuff. What we're talking about is really, can I go the extra mile for somebody that might need a door opened, can I help you edit a document or whatever it is. I'm just thinking off the top of my head. So I think advocacy relies on you taking it a step further. So actions, there has to be an action rather than just lip service. And I think there
Absolutely.
also has to be a presence. You've got to show up.
Yeah.
You have to be present. In whatever format that looks like. And like again, I think most people then might be overwhelmed and go, well, I can't do anything. I think start small. What
Yeah.
things can you do? So when you add a networking function or whatever, don't just take a business card. Really think for a moment, what does that person need from me? Or is there anything? And I think some people hesitate because they don't think they've got anything to offer. But how many times are the gems just sitting there and you might know of somebody, and even if it doesn't go anywhere, just connect the person or take that extra step.
Okay. So I like what you're saying. It's about being proactive, ordinarily proactive.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
Sarah, I think while you're talking, I just had a few thoughts, but I've always made up statistics because I think it's cool to do that. But I've always said that only 5% of what is actually promised at a networking event actually happens
Yeah.
because we go, yes, I'll email you, I'll send this, I'll follow up, and then we don't. But I think little things that we can do for others sometimes you might think, well, I don't have the time to do something, but what could you leverage that doesn't take too much time? So for
Mm.
me, I have a big network. So if I say to somebody, I will refer you, or imagine if I know your business and I know you're struggling, and I say, I will do a post about your business on my social media, on my LinkedIn, because you're in business, or on my Facebook because it's what you do is more personal, that could be a huge, it's kind of pushing the needle quite a lot versus me going, I'll just buy one of your items, So I think it's an important thing to understand what assets we have. So for many of us, it could be connecting. It could be connecting people. I like to connect people and refer. And remember, referrals are, I think, infinitely more powerful than any advertising you can do. So, who could you connect with each other? Who could you refer to someone who is powerful? How can you share your network with someone? And yeah, as you say, like hire the speaker, buy the book, support the charity, do all those things. Sarah, any other suggestions on what else we can do to support each other?
Yeah, so when I gave this talk at one thing, there were about 50 people in the room.
Yeah,
And I said to them, what if we each chose 5 people? And just over the next, I think I used 100 days, you could do whatever you like, but just, I think getting into that mentality. So maybe you can't help everyone or be a champion for everyone, but if you have an opportunity to choose 5 people, who are those people? And maybe even go and find out from them what they need. You might not be able to do it, but at least you've got that awareness. So if it seems overwhelming, choose one, choose two. That one person that came to you and said, let me be your support person. I think that's intentional. We can't do it for everyone, but I think certainly matching passions. If you want to see that person do well, help them.
yeah,
See what you can do, and don't just think they're going to get there by themselves. There's no such thing.
exactly.
You, no.
Yeah, and I think there's this perception, rightly or wrongly, that a lot of women do climb the ladder, but then they forget to like give somebody a hand up. So I suppose the question, what kind of world would it be if everyone was just like me? And
Hmm.
then what am I like? So I think an important thing would be to, as you say, identify who to help. We can't help everyone all the time, but we can help some of the people some of the time. And I look back, Sarah, you mentioned, like sometimes people have helped us when I was in business. I started my business at 23. At 25, I got a mentor. His name was Andrew. And having Andrew as a mentor, he approached me out of the blue and said, I see seeds of greatness in you. Can I tell you that changed everything? It changed
Hmm.
how I thought about myself. It changed how I showed up. It changed what I did. We
Hmm.
put numbers to things. We put deadlines to things. He made me start thinking of big, crazy goals. And having that person, I don't think I'd be the person I am today. So consequently, I have paid it forward many, many times. What I wanted to also say, Sarah, is often I've had people say to me, "You're my mentor." And I'm like, I don't quite know what to do with that. Should I be happy, sad? And what I've realized is if anyone on this listening to this has had people approach them and you think, I don't have capacity to meet you for coffee, I've realized mentorship takes lots of forms. And this is an easy one that I want to just kind of debunk the myth that if somebody says, I see you as a mentor, it's a huge honor in many ways to be seen as a mentor. It means that somebody sees something in you, but it doesn't mean that you have to now go for lunch and pay the bill. It can come in many forms. So I've had some people where I've said, I cannot meet you. So what we can do is we can do an online Teams or Zoom call for 20 minutes and we can chat. I've had people where I've said, listen, you can email or WhatsApp me and I will answer questions. And what I've realized is for some people, it's do you mind looking through my profile and seeing if it looks okay? It might be one favor. So
Hmm.
and your insight is just amazing, what you've got. Or it's somebody who says, do you know anyone? And then I can send them an email and say, these are 5 people that I can connect you with. And that could
Yeah.
be a game changer for those people.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
that really good oh, I forget it. It's on my shelf. I'm trying to see the name from here, but I can't mind. But it talks about you've got different roles in your life and fill those roles with different people and then let those people impact in. So if you've got if you've got somebody who's more analytical or, you might want to ask them for help in that area. So you're
Mm.
very specific, but you use the people around you. I think again, championing, can take time. And if you being asked to, you can put a a parameter on that. But I
Yes,
think
yes.
just moving, I think it's just moving the needle from just lip service to action. Does
Mm,
that make sense? So what
absolutely.
can I do? And it might just be a small
Absolutely.
action, it might be a big action. And on the bigger side, you get to choose, what that is. But I think that's it. I think it's moving from words to actions.
I love that. And I think I see many times where I could have probably been, a little bit more action orientated rather than just emotionally supportive. I also wanted to say something. I find a lot of people are very clear on their boundaries. The self-care movement that we're talking about, where we go, got to protect your boundaries, hard boundaries, say no. And I think a lot of us have had to do that because we always gave too much. But I also wanted to say that I read something recently that really resonated, and it said, often in life we give to people who never give back to us, but often we have received from people that we never really gave to. So I think that wheel turns. And if I look at Andrew, my mentor, I mean, I can't tell you how many tens of hours we spent together. I never paid him for those tens of hours. I never gave it back to him, but I certainly gave it forward. So I think
Mm.
sometimes if you're sitting here feeling like you don't want to be generous because you feel like everyone takes advantage of you or everyone's asking you, sometimes there's a privilege in that as well, that you obviously are inspiring people, or you have something about you that people see. They want something of what you've got. So yeah, I think I also have what I've done, even webinars have been a way of giving back one to many, where
Yeah,
you can sort of say, well, I've got this little bit of knowledge. Let me share it in a webinar that's free.
yeah,
So I think there's
yeah.
many ways to support other people. And imagine now if each one of us said, okay, I like Sarah's suggestion, five people in 2026 that I'm going to really try and help because I love their cause. I love what they're doing. I see there's potential. Imagine each one of us doing that. Everything would just elevate so beautifully. Hey?
And sometimes we put like really big time scales. So it might not be the whole of 2026, but you
Yes.
might five people that just in January you intentionally go to them and say, how can I help you start your year well? Or I just have that kind of conversation. They might say no, nothing, but I think when we operate from that basis, we
Mm.
start to see opportunities and sometimes we can make really big shifts by just being open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I struggle with we've never been more, self-aware, self-intelligent, self this, but we haven't, solved some of the big problems. So I
Mm.
think, by going out and radiating your passions, being passionate about what your giftings are and your values, you're going to align with people and see if you can help them along on the journey.
Absolutely. And one of the best leadership questions we can ask our staff and our teams is, how can I help you win? And I think we can
Mm.
apply that to other people in the workplace. So in the workplace, just to clarify, what's the difference between championing and cheerleading? Is there anything else you wanted to share on that, or do you think we've covered that?
Yeah, so I think it's again looking for who can. So are you willing to vouch for anyone so that they can, there's a difference between can I open a door? I wish earlier in my career I had people that were a little bit more saying, Sarah, I think you can do X, Y, and Z. Not, because sometimes you struggle with not knowing, exactly. And I think so that advocacy where you believe there's somebody that really can you help them take action? I think that's the most important thing. And then also, can you, regardless of what it's going to look like for you, if you are in that place that you are secure and you've got quite an established name or business or whatever, are you allowing people to stretch themselves, which might cause a bit of chaos, but yeah, I think that's going to grow people as well.
Absolutely. And they always say a leader is a person who grows other leaders, not grows
Mm.
themselves. And I
Yeah.
love that saying, be friends with people who would mention your name in a room full of opportunities. And
Yeah.
sometimes the support we could give others is invisible support. They'll probably never see it, but they will probably hear about it in time to come, if that makes sense. And
Mm.
and yeah, advocating for other people. I've often spoken at corporates where there's this mindset where, okay, I'm a leader, I'm a woman in leadership, and there's other people rising in the ranks. but I need to protect my turf. So I might not necessarily go advocate for Sarah, who is coming up the ranks. I might just like, keep mum and not really like say, well, actually, I agree with what Sarah said, and I think there are definitely opportunities to support each other a little bit more. Sarah, you suggest a practical framework.
Yes, this is my nerdy bit when I was, like when you're giving a talk, you've got to, of course, use an acronym. It's a bit cheesy. I take that completely. I'll put my hand up for that. But it was just my way of kind of going, how do we put an acronym to this? And I chose CHAMP. Okay, it's cheesy, I know, but so. The C was for courage. Like champions are willing to risk something. They'll speak up. It requires a bit of courage. The H is for help. So it's not just words, it's actually practical support. A is for advocacy, and we've chatted a lot about this. Champions use their influence, their networks, their reputation to open doors for other people. M is for mentorship. You walk alongside, sharing wisdom, guidance and encouragement. And P is for presence. And we spoke about that. You've got to be present. You've got to be showing up for somebody if you want to help them. If I go back to that battle scene in the Spanish Armada, if you weren't present there, you couldn't make a difference. So yeah, I think being present, those would be my cheesy acronym for the day.
I love that. I love that. But also, I want to go back to something you said. Often in life, there are certain people who have I don't want to say the victim mindset, but people who are always looking for help, always asking for help. And, the squeaky door gets the oil kind of thing. But then there are others who always look strong. They always look like they're okay. And often they don't get support because you're stronger than the rest of us. You're made of different DNA. And I think often we need to look at those people and consider asking if they need support. I'll give you an example of something that happened. About 4 years ago, I hosted an entrepreneurial conference. We had 1,000 people there on the day. On that day, my father-in-law arrived at the conference to tell me he'd been diagnosed with cancer on the day. At the same time, I was hosting an overseas Rotary student for 6 weeks. I came home shattered, exhausted. It was about 7 o'clock, and I thought, I have to feed this child, my family. I am exhausted. And a friend of mine arrived in my driveway with a tray, with a pretty cloth with bobotie. And she said, you've got this little exchange student. She would never have eaten bobotie. I wanted to bring you something. Well, did I cry and cry and cry in the driveway? And she said, it's just bobotie. I said, no, it's love. It's love. I didn't know that I needed the support. So this is maybe also a reminder for people who think they're strong, is to sometimes lean on people. And sometimes people feel if you're always the strong one, they can never return the kindness to you because you're always strong, you're always giving. But I think sometimes, it's maybe a reminder to say, when you are not coping, reach out. Because I think a lot of people get to this point in the year, Sarah, where they have nothing left. The tank is so empty. I don't know how many of you on this call are praying the days away, like wishing. We start with a bang and we end with a whimper, in the year. And I feel like sometimes if you look back on the year, how many times did you say to people, I'm not coping? I actually am really, really battling and struggling. And I think authentic leadership also needs that honesty that you spoke about, and the courage to say, hey, people, how are you? This is where I'm at, and how do we navigate this together? Because I think so often we always put the guard up, like, I have to be strong. I'm the leader. I'm the boss. I'm the whatever. But sometimes, we do need the support and to let people know. I also have I've had a conversation with a friend who's been going through quite a hard time, and she was saying, it's so frustrating. I'm always thoughtful to other people, but I'm going through this hard time, and this one and this one and this one hasn't reached out. And I said, have you thought that maybe they're also going through their own hard time? Because while you are going through your stuff, other people are going through their stuff. And sometimes we don't see that perspective because we are so busy with our stuff. So I think also to be maybe kind to others if they don't show up, because maybe to understand that, the world hasn't stopped just because I'm going through my own personal crisis. Yeah.
I think we can be, and you've often said it in some of your talks of, you know, let the offense fade very quickly.
Yes.
I think we've got to be a lot more kinder. If you do a little bit more action for people and you don't get it in return, like you said, I think you can pay it forward to other people. You won't necessarily reciprocate all the time. Look, it's a murky waters to navigate, but I think the biggest lesson was, and going back to my very first thing, is how did I want to show up? I was, in a situation that had made me feel really gutted, but ultimately it was a choice of how I wanted to show up. What did I want to be like? And then I think you can be intentional about, and you can go, okay, well, if I take that action and I don't get anything in return, that was my choice.
Yes.
I chose to do that. I didn't choose to do it because I'm expecting X, Y, and Z. So I think we have to keep our
Yeah.
expectations at the door. Yeah, I think it's murky waters to navigate, but I think we need more people with their blinkers open. Sometimes it's just a phone call. It's just a message. It's connecting somebody. You never know where that conversation goes, or, that's, yeah, my
Yeah.
2 cents.
No, I love that. I've got a saying that I often use, and it says, if you want to have more than anyone else, give away more than anyone else. And that's really been one of my sort of lifelong mottos. In 2019, I did a TED talk, and it was titled Generosity is the Most Sustainable Business Advantage. And I really believe that, that a lot of the times we'll go to a networking function to take. We want to, hopefully I can connect with someone and sell something and get a
Yeah.
client meeting or whatever. But if we approach life from a different philosophy of saying, you know what, I'm here to serve, I'm here to give, I'm here to add value. No, I have a bit of a no problem philosophy, and I'm always like, be the example, be the example. And you'd like to think that it comes back in many, many ways. There's a saying that if you shake the orange tree, you'll get apples, but you shook the tree. And I think so often people sit and they cling selfishly and in a miserly way to the little they've got, instead of generously pouring out what they can, and it tends to come back. In 2020, I had that list of the 25 people I would connect with, and I can't tell you, my intention wasn't to get, it was to give. But I can't tell you how working and being generous with time, attention, and whatever I could with people came back 1,000 times to me. So I think I definitely would encourage people. On that note, you've got a 100-day challenge. I want to hear about this. What is this
Yeah,
thing?
so that was the 100 days. When I gave this talk, it was about 100 days to the end of the year. And I said,
Okay.
what if we each chose 5 people? That multitude, that has a compound effect. And that in 100 days' time, there's 37 people on this call, times by 5. Please somebody do the maths, because my
Yeah,
maths
cool.
is very much. I'm going to get my calculator out.
I
Don't
think
judge
it's
me.
185, I think.
185. So just
Oh,
under
well
200
done
people.
to me.
So just under
Sorry.
200, I'll just make it, but just under 200 people would have been impacted in 100
Yeah,
days by just choosing
yeah,
5. And it doesn't have to be like, you don't have to go and change the world. It's just, can you have your blinkers off and go,
yeah,
okay, so if your friend is um an estate agent, are you going, oh, you know what? Who do I know that's selling their house? Or, so you've got that presence in the back of your mind. And then for the next, you never know what actions can take place. So that's the 100-day challenge. So if we all took 100 days from now and we all intentionally chose 5 people, that's radical change. And then the next 100 days, you can choose another 5 people, whatever the case might be. But I think that's the way we need to think about it, bite it down and say, who do I want to impact? I know you do this. I do this at the end of the week. Is I've got an A3 piece of paper that I plan my week on. It doesn't replace my diary, but I can intentionally see my whole week. But it's got a section for people. And it's, who do I need to, and I've got more intent. It's not just, and so at first it was, who do I need to message or call? But
yeah,
this blog now started to use of who do I intentionally need to like that list that you have. And those 5 people could sit in this block here. And then I think the other really helpful, we talk about being time poor. But how many of us, I know you do it, I've tried to, I'm not always as consistent, but that reviewing your week is most probably the most useful tools that you can do, because you can see where, okay, so I didn't move the needle on this. I didn't really get any, what was I doing? And often we're forgetting that we've done a whole bunch of things that weren't on that list. I think it's being intentional. Go back to some of the basics, review your week. Phone that person that you need to phone. It can be also closer to home, family. My family lives overseas, and if I'm not intentional, I'm not the person that I have to go, okay, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna go and speak to my folks and make some intentional time. So I think it's that kind of mindset that we have to make more of.
Absolutely. And I think if we look at it, I'm just thinking, 2 practical ways we could do it. One could be if you're in business, let's just say you're a business person, a small business owner, you could maybe consider doing what we did, that brainstorming session, which was so powerful, getting a group of like-minded business owners together, your 5, and saying, let's meet together. And if you're not in business, maybe doing it with your team, with the staff under you or people in your company, and asking 2 questions. 1, what do you need? Number 2, how can I help you? And if each person does it for each other, we just, it's not just an illusion of support, but it's genuine, practical, intentional interventions. So I remember when we did our event, I mean, we agreed to do referrals, we agreed to do testimonials, we agreed to follow each other on the social media platforms, and I think we've built a relationship that will extend further. And I think in workplaces, we always talk about lack of engagement, lack of culture, but often it's because people don't have those conversations where they're honest and saying, well, actually, I really battle with confidence, or I really battle to speak up in meetings, or I feel like I've got imposter syndrome. And then, well, somebody going, well, actually, like, let's help you. So I think there's definitely room for growth.
I think there's 2 responsibilities. Those questions are quite scary because often we don't want to ask them because we're too scared of what the person actually going to ask. Like, are they going to ask me for like R1,000,000 that I don't have? Like we like up this thing, like, what is this person going to ask me? Out of the times that I've done that, most of the time it's a very small action, like, I need help with X. And I think on the flip side, if you're the person being asked, then be ready. If you're wanting somebody to champion you, be ready with what somebody could do for you. So I need X, Y, and Z, or I need somebody to share my LinkedIn post. So I think it's 2 sides. We could get better at both sides, asking the questions, but being ready to answer them as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Sarah. If anyone has any questions, you're welcome to put up your hand or put something in the chat. And I'll give it a few seconds if anyone would like to share anything. But
and you can disagree. You can disagree as well.
Yes. Sarah, how do people get hold of you? Because I know Sarah is a motivational force. She walks the talk. And I would really encourage, if anyone's looking for somebody, to come into their company in the new year to do a motivational session, to encourage people with goal setting, with anything related to having a year of action and intention. I think Sarah is the real deal. You don't just talk it, you walk it, and you swim it, and you run it, and you do all those crazy things. Sarah, what is your email address if somebody, or how do they get hold of you?
So anyway, you can look at it as Ordinarily Active. So it's sarah@ordinarylyactive.co.za. On Instagram, it's Ordinarily Active, or the website is Ordinarily Active. So you can find me, and then LinkedIn is just Sarah Swainson. So any of those ways. Please repeat your cheesy champ. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. The champ, C is for courage. So champions are willing to risk something. H is for help, not just words, but practical support. A is for advocacy, choose to use your influence. M is for mentorship. Walk alongside somebody, share your wisdom, your guidance, your connections. And P is for presence. You've got to pitch up. That's my cheesy champ. I hope that helps.
That's great.
So yeah, you can get hold of me on any of those. I think, yeah, one of the most important things that I realized, I host a radio show, or show might be an exaggeration, it's a segment, but it's called Bold Heart. And we actually started next year with the Bold Heart Project. And what I've seen is, when people want to take bold actions in their lives, you need somebody to tell you that it's and they need to believe and come alongside you. And often that's my role. When somebody says to her, I can't do X, Y, and this, and a lot of my sphere is in the physical realm, but it actually is mostly internal work that needs to change, because you need to change what you believe you can do. But I think what I realized is we have, and I say this time and time again on the show, this life is not a dress rehearsal. we don't get another one.
Yeah.
So I'll give you an example. We're training for a very big adventure race at the moment. It is way out of my depth. The cycling and me, I wrote an article on it. And I think, take those chances, champion somebody that doesn't think they can do it, cultivate that in your life, and it'll take you to a bolder, bigger life, I think.
Absolutely. I love that. And also, courage is a muscle. The more we do hard things, the more we do things that we didn't think we could do, the more that courage muscle gets stronger and stronger. So yeah, I think it's encouraging to do those hard things. I also wanted to just see, I see Nazipo said something, and I really wanted to just talk about this. What she said is connecting with others is two-way, not only for leaders, but also for support staff to connect with their leaders and their teams. And honestly, if you are in a support role, one of the quickest wins to build your career is to go to the person you're supporting and to ask them what they need. So often people are intimidated by the person above them or their boss or the director. But I find that in a company, if you are there for someone and you say, I'm here to support you, what do you need? How can I help you? Often those people are desperate for some support and somebody who's just on their side. So I would encourage you, that's a great question to ask.
Yeah, I think if I can add something there, I call it managing up. Just as people might lead, you've got if you're in a support role, you've got a fantastic role to lead, but also come to the party and go for your line manager. How do I support you? How do I add value to this team? And this is what I'm hoping to get. And can I ask you for X, Y to support me in my role? So it's not just sitting down and waiting for somebody to just come alongside you, because I tend to think most of the time we look up for somebody to champion us, but those people are also time stretched. So if you can be intentionally both ways, I think it's a win-win.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. And I just want to say thank you to everybody for attending our call and for being part of this morning. And yes, I sincerely hope that each one of us has a goal for 2026 to not just have personal goals to build ourselves, but to extend that and extend that hand of friendship to have a goal to support others in whatever the endeavors are. And that's where the magic happens. And from running the Robin Hood Foundation for 20 years, I realized that the joy, the true joy, not just surface level joy, the true joy has come from purposeful stuff, and purposeful stuff is never self-centered, it's always others centered. So I hope you walk away with an encouragement to add that into your life goals if they aren't already there. I'm sure for many of you they're already there. But thank you, Sarah, and thank you for your time. Thank you for your inspiration and for your energy. And really, it's been a wonderful morning.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the space that you've created. Thank you for everybody who took time to join. I'd love to connect with anybody, so please drop me a message. And then wishing everybody a Merry Christmas. It's
yes,
and
I
I hope
believe it.
into 2026. I know most of us are clinging on, but I think let's keep on pushing to the end of the year and let's see what happens in 2026.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. Have a Merry Christmas to those who celebrate, and all the best for 2026. May it be the best one yet. Thank you.